I live alone in a 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburban neighborhood. For the longest time, it had been perfect, peaceful, a great place to unwind after a long day of work. The neighborhood was calm, and the house itself had that old, comforting feel. No loud noises, no strange disturbances, just me and the simple rhythm of daily life. But things changed a few weeks ago. At first, it was subtle, little things, almost easy to ignore. It began with soft scratching noises coming from the walls. At first, I thought it was just the house settling, as old houses tend to do. But then there were faint whispers, low murmurs that I couldn't quite make out. I'd hear them when I was sure no one was around. When I'd turn around, expecting someone, there would be no one there. I tried to convince myself that I was imagining things, that my mind was just playing tricks. But deep down, I felt watched, not in an obvious, glaring way, more like a quiet pressure, as if someone was always just out of sight, observing me. I chalked it up to stress, work piling up, and the fact that I was living alone for the first time. One night, I stayed up late working on some freelance projects. I had a deadline looming and needed to push through. It was around 2 a.m. when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps upstairs. I froze. I glanced at my phone. No one was supposed to be here, not at this hour. I paused, waiting for the sound to stop, thinking it might just be the house making a noise. But then I heard it again, clearer this time. The unmistakable tap of shoes on wood flooring, slowly pacing back and forth. Confused and on edge, I stood up and called out, "Hello? Is anyone here?" I half expected a friend had dropped by, maybe let themselves in when I wasn't paying attention. But no answer. I moved upstairs cautiously, my heart pounding in my chest. The house was eerily silent now, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I checked every room, except for the guest bedroom at the very end of the hall. It had always been locked. I'd never thought much of it. I used to keep it locked because I didn't have anyone over often, and it was simply easier that way. I had no need for that room. But tonight, something felt different. I felt a strange pull towards it, like the room was calling me. My hand trembled as I turned the key in the lock. When I opened the door, a rush of cold air hit me. It was like stepping into an entirely different climate. The room was dark, but the moonlight coming through the small window revealed something that made my stomach turn. There, in the far corner, was a small pile of empty food containers, takeout boxes, old plastic cups. Next to it was a worn blanket, rumpled and tossed aside carelessly. I took a step forward, my breath caught in my throat. I scanned the room, expecting the worst. That's when I saw it. There were markings on the walls, faint, almost unnoticeable if you weren't looking closely. Scratches, as though something or someone had been trying to mark the passage of time. It was a chaotic mess, but one thing was clear. Someone had been living here. I stood frozen, the blood draining from my face. The reality of what I was seeing hit me like a punch to the gut. Someone had been here, in my house, hiding in plain sight. They'd been watching me, learning my routine. They knew when I worked late, when I took my walks, when I came home. They knew everything. The idea that someone had been silently sharing my space for months sent a wave of nausea through me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I slammed the door shut, my heart racing. I immediately called the police. When they arrived, they searched the entire house. There was no sign of anyone, but they found enough. The guest bedroom, which I'd thought was empty, contained items, personal belongings, toiletries, even old clothes hidden away in a closet. It was like someone had been living there undetected, making use of everything they could. The worst part came when the police discovered a journal, hidden in a drawer. It was filled with entries, some of them in my handwriting, others detailing moments I never noticed, times when I thought I was alone but wasn't. They had watched me through cracks in the walls, through small openings in the doors, every detail of my life recorded in perfect precision. The chilling realization hit me. The person had been there the entire time, quietly observing, learning, becoming part of my life without ever truly being a part of it. They'd seen me laugh, cry, work, eat, sleep. Every intimate moment I thought was mine alone, they shared, and they never made a sound. The police eventually traced the journal back to a former tenant, someone who'd lived here years ago. The man had disappeared without a trace, but his presence in the house had never truly gone away. Somehow, he had found his way back, moving into the forgotten guest room, hiding in the shadows while I went on with my life, completely unaware. But the more they dug, the more the story twisted. The former tenant had become obsessed with the house, obsessed with its new occupant, me. He'd left strange marks on the walls, as if trying to communicate. The food containers. He'd been eating them during the times I was away, leaving behind remnants of his life. There were no answers, no way to explain how he'd managed to stay hidden for so long. The police found no clues on how he had entered or left the house. It was as if he had simply slipped between the cracks of reality, never truly part of it, but always there, waiting. Now, every time I walk through my house, I feel that same chill. The whispers have stopped, but the presence is still there. I know it. I can feel it. It's like the walls themselves are holding secrets, and no matter how much I try to convince myself otherwise, I can't escape the knowledge that I wasn't alone. Not then, not ever. The worst part, there's still a key under the mat, and sometimes when the wind is just right, I hear footsteps upstairs. But this time I don't go looking. I just stay in my room pretending I don't hear them, hoping that whoever, or whatever, is up there is satisfied with simply watching. Because the last thing I want to know is who might be lurking behind that locked door again.